away. Now it's Haaland. Oh, the whistle's gone. What's he given? The referee's decided that he was fouled outside the box. And it is just a free kick.
Playing better with more knowledge and much game sense will make you not only a good player, but a great one. So in this video, I'll show you 20 possible tips while playing a match for your improvements. I've already uploaded several videos on almost every topic in my channel. But this one's going to be special. Point number 1. Common play settings. Let's pick some common play settings to play with your maximum potential. So first, it doesn't matter in which control type you play. You can choose directional stick to movable or fixed by your own. But always try to select the cursor change option to manual. With this, you can freely control your players. When you want faster direction changes, use narrow movement input range. And when you need accurate direction movement, then choose wide. For classic commands, try to use standard defending control type for better defending with matchup. Other options are optional, so you won't choose them as you wish. Point number 2. Playstyle proficiency of players. You can check your player's playstyle proficiency by clicking this one time. Remember to pick players who have the proficiency level 90 or more than that with your playing style. If you choose lower than that, it'll cause performance drop for your whole team. Point number 3. Mandatory player selections. Yeah, you can go with anyone whose playstyle level is 90 or higher. But try to keep build up, whole player, playmaker, anchor man, goal poacher, and prolific winger players with your active 11 for best results. Always select the captain for the player who is capable of captaincy. One more thing, keep patlist 1 extra frontman CB and select him for player to join attack option. Point number 4. Substitution. For substitution, keep minimum 3 midfielders for replacing them with full stamina when needed. Keep patlist 1 super sub for backup. Super sub players are great for last-minute game recovery. Then try to pick 1 or 2 playmakers. And lastly, select some players who can play in multiple areas. Point number 5. Match reading. Playing against online players are always unpredictable. You probably can't figure out the movement most of the time if you don't read their gameplay style. Always try to notice how they pass, how they attack and defense, and how they create space to score a goal. Try to minimize the time of reading as much as possible to encounter them within a short period of time. Point number 6. Positioning of players. Well, one of the most important thing in football is positioning. If you set your players in correct positions, then you can stop your opponents from controlling the ball most of the time. That's why I told you to select manual cursor change option. With this you can freely move one player towards a certain position to mark the opponents very well. And remember to keep an eye on opponent players as well to predict their next possible moves. Point number 7. The timing of actions. Here's one more important point. We all face the problem of delayed response. I can't fix any network issue, but to encounter the response time, always try to make an action a little earlier than normal in online matches. Point number 8. Attack-defense switch technique. Most of the time I notice that my opponents are avoiding the attack-defense switching when playing. But this switch is very useful. Well, I've uploaded a detailed video on this, so check that if you want to learn about this switch. For now, remember that you're playing against real-time opponents, so try to use every possible thing to play better. Point number 9. Joystick control movements. The joystick control is the most important thing of our game. You can play far better than normal joystick movement if you learn to use it properly. Always try to read the upcoming movements of your opponent players, then move your joystick to free space or free player to make a successful dribble or pass. You can master the movement of your joystick with my detailed videos about joystick control. I'll pin them in description and in the comments section. Point number 10. The running formula. Basically nowadays you can't outrun any player while running solo. It doesn't matter if your player have 99 speed. For solo running, try 3 things. First, stop after receiving the ball until the opponent player approaches, then sprint suddenly towards front area. Second, while running, stop suddenly just when the opponent defenders are going to tackle your player and then change the direction of running. Lastly, when your opponent players are marking you from front side, then try to move in a circular way and then start running. Point number 11. Dribbling. In online matches, dribbling is not a mandatory thing to perform every time. Listen, dribbling is always risky, and it depends on how your player acts. I'm not going to tell you that perform dribbling in online matches with high-rated dribblers to get best results. But try to avoid dribbling as many times as possible. Instead of dribbling, try to play in passing style. It is way better to pass the ball towards a free player compared to perform a risky dribble. But if you want to learn dribbling separately, you can watch my video about dribbling guide. Point number 12. Selection of passing. I always say that passing is way better than performing fancy skill moves and dribbles. In online matches, you need to be very careful about passing. It is way harder to perform a pass without calculating the positions and movements of your opponents. Keep noticing the players and create a chain by passing within short distance. Avoid long-range passing and unusual stunning pass. Remember that stunning pass requires more time, and pressing opponents will not provide you that much time. Keep it short and pass continuously without holding the ball for a long time. Point number 13. Selection of through ball. If you can master through passing, then you can win most of the attacks without a fail when countering your opponents. Well, there's no extra rocket science for through ball. Just notice the position and direction of opponent players when you are performing a through. If you can figure out that your player can beat the opponent player and receive the through ball, then surely you should give it. But don't make a through pass near opponent's D box and avoid giving lofted stunning through unnecessarily. Through balls are very good for online matches whenever it is possible to counter-attack them. Point number 14. Methods of shooting. Of course, our movements and actions are meaningless if we can't shoot the ball properly. I'll give you 3 tips about shooting. First, always try to perform a curve shot when you're facing the goalkeeper one-on-one. Second, try to avoid stunning shot when your player is surrounded by defenders. Third, don't move the joystick straight when shooting, otherwise the player will directly hit the ball to the goalkeeper. Move the joystick to any corner area of goalpost for a successful shot. Point number 15. The defending rules. Not only attacking, you've to master the defending as well to stop your opponents from scoring a goal. Well, defending is not an easy to explain thing. But remember these things. Don't change the defending type to pressure style, keep it in standard mode, and try not to rush towards the ball with your main defenders, otherwise your opponent will get a clear space to pass the ball. Don't move defenders with pressure call and perform a fine matchup when opponent players are near to your defenders. Point number 16. Continuous marking. To snatch the ball from your opponent players, the best thing you can do is predictable movement marking. The marking is ultimate way of defending. Listen, don't gather your players to focus on getting the ball. Try to predict their movements and mark the next possible player to receive the ball. Switch to manual cursor change option to control your defenders freely. Point number 17. Matchup option. You can't defend online players finally using matchup. Well, I'll make a detailed video on matchup versus pressure very soon. But for now, remember that matchup is little harder to perform, and you've to notice the player's movements carefully. Don't force your main defenders to leave their place. Point number 18. Pressure style. Pressure style defending in online matches are a little risky. Pressure marking is fine with experience, but if your opponents are friendly with passing playstyle and obviously if you're not too good with pressure, then they can easily use the free space of your defending zone for that pressure marking. Don't call main defenders for pressure and try to move only selected player towards predicted area for defense. Point number 19. Using players for interception. Interception is one more important thing when you're playing against online players. Firstly, try to read your opponent's playing style and then notice their methods of passing. Then move your players within the passing area to break the chain. Interception is easy for winning the ball most of the time. Point number 20. Goalkeepers call. The last thing is about goalkeepers. You can use defensive or offensive goalkeepers by your choice. But I'll recommend you to use an offensive goalkeeper for online matches. They're very useful to stop many through balls and solo attacks of your opponents. But when it is about calling the goalkeeper, then I'll suggest you to avoid it as much as possible, because if your opponent players get an opportunity to pass the ball when your goalkeeper is rushing, then they can easily score a goal without any fail. So that's all for today. I hope these tips are useful to you. Make sure to practice well. And if you want to learn everything in details, then check my description or click on this playlist.